Anyway, so good morning, good morning. And today we decided that we were going to read up to the scroll marked one, which means we read through chapter 7. So anything in there that y'all want to that really stood out to y'all? I mean, there's a lot in here.
Yeah.
So
Hi, Jeanette. Hi, client.
hey, Jeanette made it. Hey, client.
Good morning. Hi, Matt. Gary. I
Good
already
morning.
said Doug.
You're like, Doug, I've seen you 10 times today already.
Anyway, good morning. How are you all doing?
Good. I only read till 4, up to 4. So I'm behind. I was telling Doug that earlier. So, but I only have up to 4, so I'm not gonna. I mean, I can talk about it if you want me to, but I know that's very far
Well,
behind.
yeah. Talk about what you did get out of it.
So I just I read up to 4, and actually it's kind of crazy. This is gonna.
The door's open.
My dad died in April. Okay, when my dad died, since my dad has died, my business professional life has been very interesting because I really didn't get along with my dad. He was in my head as a daughter. He was mean. He was just mean to me. Like that's the way it seemed. So every time we read a book, I hear my dad's voice. You know what I mean? Like this book. How I think it's in 3. He's talking about like, okay, he sold all his stuff and now he wants to be the greatest salesman, right? The guy wants to be the greatest salesman alive. So he goes to the guy and he asks him, and the guy is my dad, and my dad's like, they're like, you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. It's not that easy. Why are you doing this? This is the wrong reason for you to be doing this. You should be like, my dad wouldn't tell me that this is why I should be doing it. He just was like, here you go. Here's the baby in the water. Just there you go. Right. But I didn't know any of this until after April. So anyway, so this is so relating to this. Like, it's crazy. I literally feel like it's my dad.
Wow.
All this.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, so clearly he's been my best teacher.
So so is it changing the feelings that you towards your dad?
Yes, completely.
That's really interesting.
Oh, wow.
It is, and I feel sad about it a little bit because he always used to say, you'll be a better person for it. I'm like, I would never treat my kids like that. I would say stuff like that to him. So now I get it, but now I just wish he would have done it maybe a little bit softer or explained to me what was going on. You know what I mean? As opposed to just doing that. So part of me feels like unfortunate that I had to learn it after he passed. Like, the timing's kind of crazy weird, but at the same time, I feel like the oldest boy. I'm the oldest girl in the family. I'm the oldest. So now I feel like I'm going to be the oldest boy, and I'm going to carry on my dad's salesmanship. That's how that
Did he
goes.
serve in the military?
Yes.
Ah,
He was a Marine.
okay.
But he wasn't.
I was just about to. Yeah.
He didn't act like a Marine though. Like, well, maybe he did, but he was never like. He's a very soft guy on the outside. You know what I mean? So I always used to say that to people. Well, you wouldn't ever think he was a Marine by having a conversation with him. You just think he's an amazing salesman because of his career. So, but now I get it. Yep, that was the Marine in him, apparently.
We have a tendency to be very direct.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Learning
with our kids too.
Yeah.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
That's my.
You save a lot of time. Okay.
I'm sure he's watching over me, going, "Now you get it."
So what did you read in here that stood out to you that really kind of helped you make that transition?
Just literally just not because I was just reading that just now. So where is it? How do you know this? Okay, so the guy's like, it's my desire to become the seller of the goods. And then the guy goes, how do you know this? He's like, often I have heard you say that no other trade or profession has more opportunity. Anyway, so this is on page 18 and 19.
Okay.
So I would say that those 2 pages, I have this little book. So it talks about that.
Awesome.
There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. It's all right there. I guess after that, if someone wants to, again, it's only on this one's in chapter 3. So it talks about on top of my page 20, art thou not wealthy, sire? The old man smiled at Hafid's boldness. Hafid, so far as material wealth is concerned, there's only one difference between myself and the lowest beggar outside Herod's palace. The beggar thinks only of his next meal. This stood out to me. And I think only of the meal that will be my last. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yep.
That's pretty in truth, I would say.
Read the next part of that paragraph.
So it says, wealth not only to the strive for the happiness, fire to the peace. Oh yeah. Instead of his next meal, and I think only of the meal with my last. No, my son, do not aspire for wealth and labor, not only to be rich, strive instead for happiness, to be loved and to love, and most important, to acquire peace of mind and serenity. Yeah, I was just having that conversation the other day too.
Yep. So there are things more important that come than wealth to seek after, but wealth comes along with them if you build those, right?
Yeah.
And wealth takes on more of a definition to it than just how much money you have, because those relationships are a part of the wealth. Those relationships and the peace of mind and serenity, the calmness of your soul. So very powerful words. They just keep coming up in this book. They really do.
What do you think, Matt?
It's funny. I didn't have that part highlighted. I had the page before it where it just talked about the same theme,
Mm-hmm.
but the same type of thing. You should wealth should never be your goal in life. Your words are more eloquent than they are your words. True wealth is in the heart, is of the heart, not of the purse. Same theme, just literally half a page ahead of that.
Yeah. So that why
Yep.
that stood out to you because
Just I think it's accurate. You know, it's about making sure your kids and family and all that kind of stuff. I mean, everything else kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah. I feel like that too. And then when I see there's a lot of things that relate to this book for me in my life right now. So like I was having a conversation with somebody and we were talking about that. We were talking about like, even when you don't have a lot of, like for me, I grew up that way, just surviving. But that's how my mom did it. So we did it that way. But I feel like even though I've not had a lot of money in my life, I feel like my personality is good. You know what I mean? My heart is good. I feel like I have peace. I have a lot of things and that I give to others. And the people that are very money oriented, and not that that's bad. That's not bad. Like it's important, right? Like I'm 55. I need to be able to retire. I need to have things, right? And for my kids, blah, blah, blah. But then when you compare like people that don't have anything, like not aside from personally, like there's people out there that don't have anything, but I've learned that those people seem to be more giving than people that are just in the material world and strictly, living in that. Like those people are a lot more guarded with everything, right? To me, that's an inferior kind of behavior, although that could be debated, I'm sure. So in my life personally, I've learned but I'm trying to do both. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I've learned to to have a big heart and everything, but I also understand the value of the money part of
Yep.
it.
Awesome.
Without money, where would we be?
Yeah, well, and that's kind of I've actually found that this year and last couple of years. Obviously, the mortgage business has not been a rocket ship these last couple of years, and it's that type of thing. It's like, okay, you do more philanthropy stuff and feel good about yourself,
Mhm.
even though you're not, you're not as busy as you'd like to be. You stay busy doing other things, helping people.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I
Awesome.
think I'm thinking that some of the differences are with it, because there's lots of people who they'll go out into mission fields, and the mission fields are places. A lot of them, you're going into some of the villages and things like that, and they find that there is such a open-handedness in comparison to what they might find with somebody like all of us in comparison, who because there's a guardedness, but also they're busy. Many of us are busy in other types of philanthropy. So we're donating money here or donating money here or time there. And and what you're getting at, Carrie, is the everyday need. The everyday need and the everyday interaction with somebody, the kindness to somebody on the street, the kindness to various other things. And and a lot of times we just get too busy to do that, to notice it, or we get to be too suspicious of that, of somebody who might do something.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean the need isn't real. It doesn't mean the need isn't real. Something simple. Okay, somebody, a lot of us don't necessarily have cash with us anymore, but yet there's people standing at the street and and a lot of people will ignore them.
Yeah.
It's like they don't even look at them. It's like they're a non-person.
Mhm.
A smile and say, I don't have any cash for you, but I just want to, God loves you. You are special and you are important. And I wanted to make sure I said hi to you today because I saw you.
That is
Do I
that is
Yeah, that's
Go ahead.
pretty amazing to say that the feeling you're giving that person is amazing for sure.
Well,
that
go ahead, Clyde.
I was just gonna say that's very important. I was reading somewhere, and it was someone, they were talking to a homeless person, and he said that is the thing that bothers many of them the most. The fact that other people, they barely see them as human. They don't even give them the justice of looking at them. It's not that you don't have anything, but do you even see me?
Mm-hmm.
And from a cultural perspective, I think that many of us, the way that we look at money, the way that we look at wealth is very different than in many other places. I've traveled a little bit, and I'll tell you, the poorest people will share their. Listen, I've had people, and I'm like, listen, you don't have anything, but it's okay. You take it. And over here, so often we're like, well, I got to have this and I got to have that. It's a different philosophy, but that aspect of the hand being open enables
Right.
blessings in so many other ways.
I want to take that, even since we're talking about it, I want to take that even. Okay, so we've got the extreme of the people who are on the street, and that's valuable. That's important about that. But we've got these people who are every day in our lives, and the thing that's being talked about, actually not so much this book, but all the other books, the restaurant, the person who's sitting alone in a restaurant, who's sometimes they're there because they want to be, sometimes they just don't want to be sitting by themselves. They don't want to sit in their house anymore. They need to be around people, and maybe so the conversation they have is with the server, and that's it. So there's places of kindness and giving and creating relationships, and so bringing that into here, um, you know, uh, which chapter is it in?
I
As
think
you get on into it, it's giving. Here's where he goes to a cave and he ends up giving
oh,
because he sees, it's a similarity. And they talk about a cave instead of it being, uh, but this is in the time of Herod. It's the big star. It's, the whole implication is that it's the birth of Jesus, and with all of that, although he's got them positioned in a cave, and the two parents are trying to cover this baby, and it wouldn't have to be Jesus with it. It's just the star is the only thing that indicates that and brings the story together. But two parents who are freezing and they have a newborn and they're trying to cover their baby with the little bit of clothes they have, and yet they're freezing. So he goes in and he gives this garment and puts it over the baby. Um, he puts his garment over the baby, and the parents can then get to wear their cloak. It occurs to me, there's one of the things that comes up in the Bible about Jesus having a seamless garment, and he was not poor. He was never poor. It's like, oh, he got this garment when he was a baby because they kept everything forever. So, inference is, okay, is that the garment that Jesus reportedly is wearing? So again, tying those together, but that kind of kindness with it, and that was the selflessness where he thought he was going to be berated, and yet that kindness shone a light on him for, is it Hafid? No,
yeah,
Hafid is the one.
yeah.
Okay, sorry. You guys talk.
Pathos. Yeah, giving is a great big part of what this is, and it says several times in here to give half of what you earn. This is on page 22. It talks about the rewards of a salesperson. The rewards are great only because so few succeed. It's what it says. Many succumb to despair and fail without realizing that they already possess all the tools needed to acquire great wealth.
That's halfway through chapter 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On page 22, many others face each obstacle in their path with fear and doubt and consider themselves enemies when in truth, these obstructions are friends and helpers.
Like my dad.
Yeah. Obstacles are necessary for success because in selling, as in all careers of importance, victory comes only after many struggles and countless defeats. Yet each struggle, each defeat sharpens your skills and your strengths, your courage and your endurance, and your ability and your competence. And thus each obstacle is a comrade in arms, forcing you to become better. So you develop a different attitude about obstacles. You develop a different attitude. And, in real estate, we all feel like we're the solution person. All these obstacles come up in a transaction, and what our job is to solve those problems, solve those answers, get the answers, do something, find out what's going on, and see if we can find a solution, right?
Yes. Don't settle for no when there's still room for yes.
That's exactly right.
Oh, so the voice of Coach Rudd. Not a ghost.
Seriously, though.
Each rebuff is an opportunity to move forward. Furthermore, you are embarking on the loneliest profession in the world. Yay. Despite the despised tax collectors return to their homes at sundown, but you will witness many setting suns far from all friends and loved ones. I'll tell you what, Sometimes I feel like that's where Jeanette is, even though she's in her office. She is figuring out, okay, what's the solution for this
Yeah.
challenge? And she's on the phone for an hour and a half with a seller who has lost their mind.
Good job. Good job.
But
Good
you,
job.
but you know what? The important thing about that is that aspect of us continually looking to solve situations is good for the mind.
Oh yeah.
Many people go to work each day and they don't have to think at all. Like someone working on an assembly line, there's no thinking involved. They just do what they have done 50,000 other times before. That is
Yep.
mind numbing in comparison to what we do, being able to be creative and bring that. And something else that you said about it being lonely, yeah, it is. One of the, and I got to look this up and get this to you guys. I was looking at a video in regards to the importance of getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And it was amazing what they were saying about that loneliness that we consider loneliness is not, yes, it's lonely, but it's essential time for our mind to figure things out, devoid of distractions. So loneliness is relative.
Loneliness is, yes, it is. I'm sorry. Somebody else talk. I talked to you.
Well,
I like hearing you too.
I think loneliness and while lonely, yes, but I think maybe better to say independent, like, right? Like we're independent, getting up in the morning, trying to solve those things. I'm a real estate agent. I'm working for me, right? Like I have alone time that's working for me. Like that's maybe autonomy. What I'm just trying to say is loneliness is different than being working for yourself. But it is important to have the personal time to be able to process and do and problem solve and do the things. And I was just talking about this with Erica yesterday. We were talking about being very successful, and there's less people, right? You go up the ladder, people fall down. So when you're up the ladder and you're working for yourself and you're up the ladder, there's a lot less people with you often, or there's people that judge you more, or there's more this. So the farther you go, the less you have, So maybe that's more of what it's at. There's probably a lot to talk about that, but maybe that's
So that's a very interesting thing you're saying, because when you go up a ladder, guess what? There's also less support. The higher you go in any endeavor, there's less structure, there's less foundation for you to depend on. You become very self-dependent. And that's not a bad thing, actually.
No, because we've learned like for me, I've learned so much of my foundation between that Marine that's not in this home anymore and here, right? And here, this is like this place has changed me a lot. I'm sure if you talk to Coach or Justin or Celeste, they would tell you that. So, but yeah, it's definitely we get all the support now. We get all the education. We get all the information, and then all of a sudden, like, right, we sell a house, and then usually it just kind of snowballs and then has seasons. So it's so important to get the basics and the good in-depth foundational talents and skills and toolbox so that you can fly.
Well, is that go with the statement, when the student is ready, the teacher will come?
Yes. Right, Matt?
So we know, it's kind of like, here's this perfect us. And we think that every time we fail, we're falling down. And I'm finding it's more like a string. It's a ladder, but the ladder swings. And I don't really see that. Even in this book, even his down was not really a down. It was a swing way off to the right or the left. But it's part of what also helped him to be ready when he was becoming, if this is your destiny, if this is who you were created to be, all of these things, you just swing back and forth until, there's not as much swing room as you get closer to the top, and you have more things to use. It all kind of comes together.
Mhm.
So it's I'm not looking anymore as failure as a down. It's a swing. Okay, way over here. Now, how far do I have to come back? And sometimes you swing too far the other way.
Yeah.
So, but it's okay. It allows it to be okay. It's a data point.
Mhm.
Remember how we've talked about that? It's a data point. Okay, it's not a good or bad thing. Things could have better results, and maybe some horrible things happened out of it. But still, when you set the emotion aside and look at the information for a time, you get to grow in it. And he's talking about that. I really we're close to the end of this. I was smiling at the beginning of chapter 4. So you read this, Carrie. So he's out there. He's got a half loaf of bread. He's his 4th day in Bethlehem. He's trying to get something done, and his questions. Well, why will the people not listen to my story? How does one command their attention? Well, how do they close the door before I have said 5 words? Why do they lose interest in my talk and walk away? Is everyone poor in this town? What can I say when they tell me they like the robe, but they can't afford it? Why do so many tell me to return at a later date? How do I sell when I cannot? Or how do others sell when I cannot? What is this fear that seizes me when I approach a closed door, and how do I overcome it? Is my price not in line with the other sellers?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, how many times a day have you asked that question?
Probably all of those questions.
I laughed when I saw that and it was intended for us to laugh, I'm sure. And to realize, and then he shook his head in disgust at his failure. So, letting ourselves, being okay to fail is one thing. If you look at it as a data point, well, is it really a failure? I'm not sure there's anything that's a failure. Okay, a marriage doesn't feels like it, those kinds of things, that feels like it, but it's also a correction point.
It's also a
Right.
learning experience. Some
It's
people say I never fail, I just always learn.
you have to learn, you have to fail in order to learn the skill, right? Like, okay, well, that's not something you're going to do. Like, you know how they talk about failing forward? It's what it seems like. If you don't fail, you're never going to be good. Like, you have to fail. Like, failing is like one of the biggest points of success. Like, without failure, is
Yeah,
there
but
success? Like, I don't know how the hell that's going to happen. Like,
we give that such Carrie, you are absolutely right, but we give it such negative connotations. Look at, politics. Oh, he lost the race, or he lost this, or he failed at this. And, not to, how should I put this? So I'm thinking about our incoming president. Yes, I teased him about bankruptcy 7 times. Yes, I was one of those. He also is going to be president twice, with or without my vote. And so I'm just saying, while on one hand we look at failure as something that's a negative, certain people use that as food, as energy,
mhm.
as a catalyst to make it happen. So I am changing that whole thing about failure. But it's hard though, because when you fail and your family sees you fail, they don't understand that. They're not looking at it from that perspective. Yeah, okay, you didn't make money for the past 2 months. Do something else.
Right. I'm
And
like,
you're
oh,
like,
you're
but I'm
growing,
gonna do it.
right?
I'm gonna do it.
When my kids are like, oh my God. Now I'm like, awesome, you're growing. Like, good job. Know what you learned from that. Like, now that's
And
what I
also,
do. Well, what are you learning from that? Okay, don't do that. What are you going to do next time? You know what I mean? Like, awesome. Like, I need you to grow. So keep going. You keep failing. That'll do it.
It's awesome. You're
clearly
becoming
the people,
fearless.
and clearly the people who are at these levels did not get just put there by someone else. They have a calling because they don't quit. They know something in them, and they can't quit because they haven't done what they're supposed to do yet. Well, that's us. And that's why we're talking about callings. That's why we're here because there's something in us that won't quit.
Isn't that the truth?
And I
All
have
right.
that and it got renewed.
Yeah.
So
I definitely don't know how to quit.
Well, we're going to have to
Excellent way to close it out.
Sometimes
All
I
right.
have a problem, but you know, whatever.
bless you all. Happy
Excellent.
New Year. Happy New
But that's
Year.
a great way to close it out. Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
Take care.
See you on the
All right.
second.
So like what?
Yeah.
So
See you next year.
See you next
Okay.
year.
See you next year.
Stop the recording, Doug.
All right, y'all. Bye-bye.
What are
Okay,
we
bless
doing
y'all.
till like 10, 11?
Happy New Year, everybody.